Hello and welcome to the Metapod Podcast, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. I've got my Christmas Pikachu mug. It's that time of year. Mariah Carey Pikachu is coming. Just kidding. It is Thanksgiving week for the Metapod podcast, so it is Thanksgiving week, right, Sean?
It is, yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
It is American
Cool.
Thanksgiving week, which I learned is not the same as Canadian Thanksgiving. So,
Oh, interesting. When do you know like when Canadians celebrated, or did anybody tell you?
well, I mean, I was there. I was in Canada. It was probably like a month ago now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's very different time frame.
Okay. But everybody celebrates. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot more people celebrate Christmas, so
Yeah.
we're in the holiday season out here. And there's plenty to talk about within the holiday season here on the Metapod podcast. We've got plenty of topics, including the first Surging Sparks regional that happened this past weekend. Very exciting to watch. I got to tune into some of it. I had a lot of fun, and I know, Sean, you were talking about it in the Discord too. Also a bit of fun with some of the decks. And then with the a little bit of news revolving around Pokemon leagues, some of the evolution arts, right? We're going to be showing those off and talking about those, and then also tournament results as always.
Yep. So, pretty straightforward. I mean, we could just jump into the news. That way we have time to talk about the regional as well at the end. But it's been a couple weeks since we've done news. So just a quick little dive in there. First topic is there is a premium collection coming out that's going to feature some 151 packs called Blooming Waters. And this one, I have it pulled up on the screen here for the viewers watching. But for those listening, there's like a Jumbo Blastoise EX. You get a Venusaur and a Blastoise EX normal card, a Squirtle, and a Bulbasaur, and then 12 151 packs. No, it comes out in February, and it's $60. It's just interesting, right? Because it's like, this will be coming out, I think, 18 months after the set originally released. So
yeah, I mean, I love when they do like the holiday sets and stuff in things like this. I don't usually buy them, but just continuously having accessibility to the packs in like these brand new ways and stuff like that. And it's nice that they're doing also Venusaur and Blastoise, because the Charizard EX, right, there's that premium collection with the figure and stuff, and actually looks really, really cool. That does not come with 151 packs. But I think the Charizard EX is the 151 Charizard EX in the box, the one that does like 300 damage for
it's
5 energies or whatever.
One, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's only two Charizard EXs right now. There's the fire type and the dark type. Oh my. Oh no.
Yeah, happy birthday, Sean, for all the YouTube viewers that are watching the YouTube version. Balloons just flew across Sean's screen. Sean, I didn't know you had so many balloons in the place
what
you
is
were
happening?
living right
There
now.
must have been an update. I turned all of these reactions off in
But anyways, while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit more about Blooming Waters. So this is going to release on February 7th, and it's going to cost $60. And as Sean said, it's going to contain 12 booster packs of 151. It does come also with 4 holo promo cards. It comes with Venusaur EX and Blastoise EX from that 151 set, but it also comes with little holo promos of the Bulbasaur and Squirtle from 151. So especially if you're looking for some cool rarities, right? I know they have the illustration rares and stuff, so it might not be max rarity, but if you're looking for some other cool options, because I think those are a little bit pricey because they're big hits in the set.
If you're looking for
you can get these holos.
If you're looking to get the master set, they've just created 2 new special promo versions that now make it that much harder to finish.
Exactly. 151 collectors will continue to cry in shambles, but I do like the box a lot. I like when they put like 12 packs in a single box.
I do. Yeah, I agree. I think it's nice, and the cost for the 12 packs being $60 is actually really reasonable because usually when they put this many packs in a product that's not an ETB, it's in like this ultra premium collection, and it comes with, to your point earlier, like a figure or like a gold card or whatever, and then they'll jack the price up to like $100. So
Hmm.
yes, you get more value, but if really what you're going for is packs, then like this is a good way to get your hands on a nice chunk of packs for without some added promo premium.
Especially when the 151 set is so sought after, right? It's about like
Hmm.
$5 per pack. And then you get a bunch of promos on top of that and a jumbo card. We
Yeah.
know some people love those jumbo cards. The picture shows Blastoise, I would assume. Oh no, it
No,
just
it's just
says that there's
Blastoise.
only a jumbo version of Blastoise. I'm sorry, Venusaur. So sad, so sad. But if you are looking for maybe something else, maybe even regarding 151,
I was
new
gonna
league
say,
promos are coming for
Jake.
friendly tournaments.
I'm interrupting for. I just got some cards that I had graded back. This is like totally off the rails.
Oh,
But
nice.
speaking of 151, I did finally get back. I pulled the Charizard EX from 151, the
Hmm.
illustration rare, and you see that grade there, Jake.
That's a pristine 10.
I don't really have a lot of graded cards, but I do have a 10 in that Charizard for what it's worth.
I have a. What else did you get in there? Hold on. If you're going to interrupt me, you might as well just go. What else you got in there?
There's a bunch of other things. There's some other charts. Some of the grades weren't as good, but you know what? I'll just show you one of the other 10s, which is the only card in Champion's Path that's worth anything, which is Rainbow Charizard. Also got a
That
10.
card ain't worth crap.
And it's
I
still
hate
not
that card, man.
it's still not worth crap in a 10, but I do love Blastoise. I got Blastoise in a 10. You
Oh,
know.
that's the XY Evolutions one.
Yeah, the full art
Hmm.
Blastoise. I mean, we did get some other, graded waifus,
Oh, yeah.
if you will.
Are you going to sell any of them to GameStop?
You know what? I should probably take one in and just see what the experience is like. But I will
That's a
say,
YouTube video right there.
I mean, yeah, like all the other 100 videos, like, oh, I took my card into GameStop. What happened? They bought it or they didn't. That's what I don't know. But the only card that I will say this small little story here, story time. When I first got back into Pokemon in 2019, I'm showing off a XY Charizard Mega Charizard EX from Evolutions. It
Yeah,
came
it's
back
that
a
gold
9.
alternate.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that one, I bought like 4 packs, and that was in one of the 4 packs that I pulled of the first 4 packs I'd bought of Pokemon in 20 plus years.
Nice.
And that's what got me hooked. So, talk about gateway drugs. Give somebody a Charizard in their first 4 packs, and that'll do it.
I've got one of those kinds of things as well. I had just like started Twitch streaming at the time. It was before I really got into playing the Pokemon TCG. I was just doing like video games and
Mm.
stuff like that, like random ones like Until Dawn, games that I liked. Um, and I remember I bought team up packs from I think it was from the team up tins with the alternate tag teams. I think it was
Yep.
Venusaur and Snivy was the one that I got. It was either that or the Eevee and Snorlax. And I pulled from where it wasn't a team up pack. It was a Lost Thunder pack. I pulled the Rainbow Alolan Ninetales GX. I still have that card and I'm gonna grade it someday, but I'm not getting rid of it.
Yeah. So that was a part of a lot of the cards in there were cards that I'm probably going to keep. Like I opened a Deoxys pack with my brother a few years ago,
Mm.
and I got a Holo Jirachi. Jirachi is like my favorite Pokemon. So I got a Holo Jirachi from a Deoxys pack from like 1 pack, and I'm like, I graded that, and that was like a 9, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care what the grade is, I like it. But
YouTube video
anyways,
when of Sean getting all of his submissions back. Let
yeah,
us know.
this has been the giveaway, but uh, Anyways, that was completely off the rails. We can go back to news.
If you maybe want some stuff for free, but you don't want to go through PSA grading or anything like that, don't worry. Your Pokemon leagues are going to start having prizes for new friendly tournaments starting in the month of December. These friendly tournaments are just going to be casual. They're not awarding points or anything like that. The gear is to give new players a taste of the tournament scene, right? We've seen the evolution of Pokemon Pocket, right? The interest in the Pokemon trading card game, I believe, is kind of has the potential to be at an all-time high at this point. And so going in now, giving away some of these free promos and stuff, they include Pidgey from 151, the Rescue Board from Temporal Forces, Festival Grounds from Twilight Masquerade, and as Sean alluded to with the boxes, right, that Pidgey 151, it's a brand new promo, never showcased before. So you Master Set collectors, you're going to need another one. And
Yeah.
also a set of dice included in it.
Yeah, I think we've seen them do similar things. Like, I think they had a bunch of promos of Buddy Buddy Poffin a few months
Yeah.
back. And yeah, like I think Pokemon is just trying to encourage stores to run quote unquote like proper tournaments, but to do them without them being challenges or cups. But like you can win prizes and it's fine. I mean, like, look, it's a little strange to me that they're like labeling them anything because stores just run locals and locals are always in the form of a tournament of sorts. And
Mm-hmm.
stores can just give out promos for attendance at those tournaments. So it's a little funny that they're like having a specific name or they're trying to name them. But I will say, if you want, like these tournaments can be run in any capacity. So these are also a good opportunity for you to talk to your local store and say, hey, we want to do a GLC event. And then boom, here's some pricing and promos for running a GLC event too. So I think this is another, interesting way for a store to run something like a GLC and have like more unique pricing to give away other than just the prize packs.
I will say the choice of like Festival Grounds and Rescue Board are interesting. I would have thought then maybe for these friendly tournaments, they would have stuck with like just Pokemon,
Mm.
right? Because you want like kind of more recognizable things, but I guess if you're playing in a friendly tournament, you kind of have a concept of trainers. So maybe that's their understanding.
Yeah. I
They
mean, I
are not
guess.
bad trainers, right? We didn't give out potion.
No, no. I mean, Festival Grounds, though, is a kind of strange one because, like, look, Pidgey can go into Pidgeot. Pidgeot is just really good and can be played in a variety of decks. Rescue Board is just a generically good item card, or a tool card, I should say. But Festival Grounds is very specific. Like, there's only one deck really that cares about Festival Grounds for the most part. So that one was the one that like that one of these things is not like the other, and Festival Grounds is the one for me.
But it's a party, Sean.
Hey, yeah,
It's a party. It's a friendly tournament. It fits the theme. But again, these are going to start happening in December, and as Sean alluded to earlier, it's up to the organizers' discretion of how they're going to be distributed and done. So make sure to check in with your league organizers to find out how that goes.
Moving on now, I'm scrolling up, but I just wanted to quickly look at some of the illustration rare art from Terrestrial Festival, which is going to be our special set. What's the name of our special set?
Prismatic Evolutions.
Yes, Prismatic Evolutions. It'll be Prismatic Evolutions for us, coming out in, I believe, January, February, sometime in there.
I believe it comes out after the new year. Yeah.
Yeah. So just a quick look at some of the art here. I have the Flareon pulled up. Just gorgeous art all around on all of these. We don't really have much to say. We're going to do a full set review when the time comes, but I think this is just sort of for those of you who listen to the pod or watch the pod and want to see. We're on Pokey Beach's social media accounts right now, but the Flareon is gorgeous. The Jolteon, just absolutely gorgeous as well. Vaporeon with like the stained glass window sort of in the background. So the return of the stained glass window from Hidden Fates, maybe.
Hmm. I will say, like, there's a constant theme around all of these evolution alternate arts. They all feel like they have extremely busy backgrounds in a
Yes.
sense. So like the flare, like a lot of them, and maybe it's just because of what Terra is in general, right? Because the Pokemon kind of becomes like a glass kind of lighting or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain if you've never seen it like in the video game. They look like they're made of glass,
Crystal.
but yeah, crystal. It is difficult to see a lot of them. Like the Flareon, in my opinion, difficult to see. The Vaporeon, my eyes just don't know where to look. Eevee
Yeah.
basically blends in with the photo, right? Umbreon and Espeon, or I'm sorry, Umbreon and Sylveon are a little bit easier to be able to see in there. Jolteon kind of being in that same room with them, but like it's still like they're morphing in with the colors of the uh, backgrounds and stuff like that. The colors
Yeah.
of the Pokemon blending in with the background, so it makes it very interesting to see in there. But is there actually no Espeon in this set?
There is an Espeon. We just don't have a higher res version of the card art just yet.
Oh, got it. I was gonna
Yeah.
riot, actually.
No, no.
Yeah, I was gonna be angry.
Yeah, I saw like a whole group picture of it, so I'm pretty sure. Maybe there's not, but I'm pretty sure there's an Espeon. I could be maybe very wrong. I don't know.
I'm gonna have
Um,
to look it up. I'll
yeah,
do some searching.
but I will say of the ones that we have the higher resolution art, I think as per usual, Umbreon. I think it looks pretty good. It's well framed. Because you're right, the backgrounds are very busy, but the Umbreon one is very well framed. And then I actually think the Sylveon one also has a really interesting like design around it. It's busy, but
Hmm.
I don't think it is. It's busy in a way that I think is more complementary than I think it is distracting. So
A follow up as well. There is an Espeon, Glaceon, and Leafeon. We just
okay,
don't
yeah.
have the high res images of them yet.
So, but yeah, interesting stuff here. And then, oh, it looks like they're also. I will say, Jake, I'm pulling this up. I have the Pikachu, uh, the official Pokemon Pikachu box, and I have it pulled up on the screen now. There will be an Eevee one coming out at the Pokemon Center in Japan. It looks like to
Oh, I
go
think I
along with this
remember
set.
talking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so these, I will say, if you want to go on eBay after they come out and order some from people who went to the Pokemon Center in Japan, they're extremely nice. They're very high quality, very durable. Like they're a little bit squishy, but they're just really well made. So, firsthand experience with similar deck box. Approve.
I think we've talked about this deck box before, but for all of our audio listeners, it's the deck box that is covered in like fuzz, and it looks like
Felt. Yeah.
Pikachu. It's got ears on it. Felt. Yes, I never remember that word. 0 days since Jake has remembered the word felt, but it's the felt deck box that has like the ears and stuff and Pikachu's face on the flap. But yeah, Sean, rating it very highly.
Yes. So, but yeah, that is all the news that is fit to cover, at least for
Hmm.
today. Uh, but we can move on, Jake, to probably the big topic at hand, which is, we talked last week. We had our predictions as well about like what Surging Spark decks could look like, what we were excited to see, what we were hoping to see, and what we thought would do well. As a recap,
Hmm.
I was, really pulling for some version of Goldengo to do well in the tournament. And Jake, I know you had a lot of interest and faith in Hydreigon, right?
Well,
Or what was the
I
other?
had
What was the
heard there
one?
was a lot of hype. There was a lot of
Yes.
hype going in about Hydreigon. I didn't fully believe in it, but I did acknowledge that, like, okay, it's actually doing well in these online tournaments. Maybe there's something there, right? Maybe it's not just a meme at this point. But Hydreigon did not did not did not do as well as what I thought. And my pick, also Lost Box Pikachu, did not make the top 8. But Sean, in the Sacramento Regionals, we had forgot to mention about one specific archetype. And we mentioned this in Discord before the Sacramento Regional really started going, like, ooh, people should worry about this deck, because we were in the conversation in the official Metapod Discord that you can join in the description down below. We were in the conversation of Pikachu EX, right? And so we were like, you might want to watch out for this, because this deck also feels pretty cool with Pikachu and other new stuff from Surging Sparks. Sean, what was the deck that we missed that won the entirety of Sacramento Regionals?
It was Miraidon. It not only won, but it was a mirror match. Well, sort of. It was close to a mirror match in the finals. So Landon, and I'm gonna mispronounce this, I'm sure.
Kettler.
Kettler? Okay, Landon Kettler.
Yeah.
Won the whole event. But second place was Kenneth Gilman, who also was running Miraidon. So just sort of opening up Landon's list here, which is interesting. I actually do want to talk about the slight differences between the two lists as well, because I think there's at least one. I wonder if there's maybe a second card that is like particularly different from Kenneth's list as well. But
we have Landon's list, the winning list, to be able to showcase to you all. So
yeah, Landon's list here, you're playing 2 Miraidon, which I think was, the deck is not vastly different than maybe before Surging Sparks, but there are a few new pieces that I think really help the deck. And those are, you got 2 Miraidon, 2 Iron Hands in this list, which, I guess makes sense. I don't know. I think sometimes people mess around with, is it 2 hands or is it 1? Do you go 2 Raikou versus 1 Raikou V, which this list has? We do see the reintroduction, though, of Raichu, which was played in both lists, because you also have, in terms of new stuff, you have a 1/1 line of Magneton. So if you don't remember, Magneton has the ability, once during your turn, you may attach up to 3 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Lightning Pokemon in any way you like. But if you use this ability, then the Magneton is knocked out and you give up a prize. So a really easy way to find your energy to put onto whatever Pokemon you might want. But it makes it, I think, also a lot more likely for Raichu to be helpful in the late game, too. Like, you can just have 3 extra energy on board for Raichu's attack.
Especially with 16 different lightning energy inside this list and plenty of discard effects, right? You've got Squawkabilly in there as a discard effect, Ultra Ball as a discard effect, even Secret Box being the A-spec of choice, I think maybe surprised a lot of people with that Secret Box. You do have to discard 3 other cards from the hand, but proved to be very useful for Landon, at least in his tournament run, being able to grab item card, which can be an electric generator, tool card, which could be for Sealstone for another electric generator, a supporter card for Arvin to go get electric generator, and a stadium card, which could be Area Zero Underpass, because alongside the Magneton, you're running 2 other Surging Sparks cards, one being the Pikachu EX. That was kind of the start of our conversation in this. Pikachu EX, a no-brainer, right? If you want to include a Terra type, it is so nice to not have to play the Mewtwo EX right in your list. And especially with that Resolute Heart ability, even though you're not playing grass energies or metal energies inside this deck, just having the Pikachu there that can potentially tank a hit, right? That can, with one retreat as well. With Latias, right, basic Pokemon in play not having a retreat cost can easily get out of there, or with the rescue board that you've got in this list. So really cool stuff alongside in here. And then you've got plenty of support Pokemon as well in the Mew EX, Pheasantipity, Luminion, and Iron Bundle, which I heard Iron Bundle was very good.
No, Iron Bundle, I do think came in clutch at a couple of different points, because sometimes, your damage output can be limited, right? Like Raikou, The damage output on Raikou can get really big, but if your opponent doesn't have a lot of Pokemon on the bench, it's still limited. And obviously, things like whatchamacallit, Miraidon has a 220 output. So with Iron Bundle, there was one game, I think it was against Charizard that I saw, where the opponent attacked with Charizard, Radiant Charizard, leaving a single prizer in the active. But obviously, if you're playing this deck, you want to take 2 prizes every single turn. That's your game plan. And so the Iron Bundle allowed them to say, okay, well, if I Iron Bundle, you might bring up the other 1 prizer you have in Cleffa. Cleffa I can kill with Iron Hands. So they were able to do exactly that, still keep on that 2 prizes per turn sort of pace, and close out the game pretty easily. So
I
yeah.
remember there was also a game against Reggie Drago. I can't remember which one. I think it was Grand Shen in like top 4, where Grand Shen only had Cleffa and a Reggie Drago V on the field. Cleffa in the front, Reggie Drago in the back. And so with Hyper Blower, right, even though your opponent gets to choose what Pokemon comes up, if they only have 1 Pokemon on the bench, there's not really a choice. It's basically a prime catcher, boss's orders, or something of the sort. So, especially without Escape Rope in the format, right? Iron Bundle being an excellent, cool choice that also synergizes well with Night Stretcher. I think being able to recover that guy and continue to cause problems for your opponent. So.
Yeah, it was also just impressive, like watching the decks in the finals, also watching the top 8 match where you're just like, the deck draws so many cards with Pheasantipity, with Mew, with, Raikou's fleet-footed ability, with, its own, whether or not it's Arven going and finding other pieces. I think the one thing I want to call out is like a difference, which like the finals match was interesting in that I think every player who went second won that game. So it was, I think that that's not so surprising if you understand how this deck works. It's a pretty fast deck. Your goal is to go second, to start taking prizes immediately. And in a matchup, in a mirror match, that means you're taking 2 prizes to start the game usually. So it can be, I think, pretty awkward. And I think everybody who went second won. And Landon went second twice to Kenneth's going second once in that best of 3. But Kenneth does play the Blood Moon or Saluna in their Miraidon deck. So just wanted to call out there, like, I think that's one like major difference between the 2 decks is that they fit in a Blood Moon or Saluna, and I think Kenneth also opted for 2 Raikou Vs. I don't know where the space is cut, but I know that there's a Blood Moon and 2 Raikous in Kenneth's list versus no Blood Moon and 2 Iron Hands in this list.
And I think that makes sense, right? The Raikou V being just a very good attacker, as you talked about, if the benches are full, which is a lot of this format. There's a lot of bench filling to go around. But Blood Moon Ursaluna just being a really efficient attacker, especially in that late game, and taking colorless energies. You have not only basic lightnings, but double turbos as well. Double turbo even gets you to that 220 that Miraidon can hit, and you can do it at even in a cheaper cost in comparison, and even using basic lightning at some points, or even for free if you've got if your opponent has 1 prize left in the match. So it's just all about what kind of numbers you're trying to hit and things like that. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer of what you should do, but there's a couple different ways to do it. Very nice to see a deck like Miraidon really kind of have like 65 kind of cards that it can build around with.
Yeah, it was a very cool list here. But yeah, Miraidon taking down the entirety of the tournament. But that is not to say that it was the only one to show out. If you look at this top 8, just overall, Jake, you see there are sort of at the bottom of the top 8, which is not to say anything negative, is 5 Reggie Dragos. So we did talk about like, hey, maybe in this tournament there will be some pressure put on Reggie Drago with all these new decks. Like, it was a really good deck in the last format. How will it adjust? How will it fare? I'm going to quickly just jump into this Reggie Drago deck, though. the top of the Reggie Drago stack, if you will, Jake.
Grand Shens.
Grant Shen's, yes. So just looking at this list, pretty straightforward. I mean, like in terms of like what goes into a Reggie Drago deck, it's pretty normal. I think the only new cards that we are seeing are Terra Orb as a one of, which can go grab you, the Dragapult. You can go grab you a Teal Mask Ogerpon, but it can also just grab you your Dragapult EX to throw in the discard if you need to.
There's a lot of different options.
Yeah. But the other card, which I think, we debated, like, would people run this or not? Is that a Alolan Executor?
I think we mentioned the card.
Yeah.
I don't think we said that you should run it.
No.
I just want to. I didn't at least. I will admit that. But as you were saying, I think I interrupted you. Alolan Executor EX Terra. This stage 1 300 HP Pokemon. You're never putting it on the field. You're always copying the attacks. But with Tropical Frenzy, right, you can attach any number of basic energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you'd like. Can be really nice for loading up energies on other Regidragos, right? 150 is nothing to scoff at. Knocks out a lot of kind of smaller Pokemon, right? We talked about how some people leaving Cleffa in the active, or maybe like in Charizard matchups and stuff like that. Leaving different baby Pokemon, or it can even set up cleanup damage later with the Phantom Dive Dragapult. But Tropical Frenzy adds a little bit of consistency, right? You're never going to start a Execute, so you don't have to worry about that. But the Alolan Executor EX was a really cool inclusion, I feel like, in this list.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, I will say, there's an interesting, that second attack is kind of interesting in a situational sense. Meaning, if for whatever reason you could be in a situation where your opponent is playing, mostly a 2-prize deck where they have a big 2-prizer in the active and then a 2-prizer somewhere on the bench. And you're like, I may not be able to knock out the one right in front of me. Maybe it's bigger than 280, so you don't have an insta-kill attack. Well, this Alolan Executor says you can just knock it out if you flip heads. And look, if you flip tails, which is not ideal necessarily probably, but if you flip tails and there's another 2-prizer on the bench, you can still take 2 prizes without needing to boss around it. So
I think this is especially indicative of the Raging Bolt matchup, right? Playing only basic Pokemon, I believe in what's that deck called? Raging Bolt.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm losing it right now. Raging Bolt, if you saw posted in the official Metapod Discord server that you can join with the link in the description below, Raging Bolt was the second most populous deck in both day 1 and day 2 in this tournament. So kind of as you're alluding to, right, with the Bravery Charm on a Raging Bolt, that's 290, which is a super awkward number for Regidrago to hit. So being able to essentially guarantee 2 prizes every single time you use the attack, it doesn't even have to be to knock out the Raging Bolt active. It can be an Ogerpon on the bench, because I believe this gets around the Terra type bench barrier.
Because I believe
it
prevents damage. It doesn't prevent effects.
Yes, so it can knock out an Ogerpon EX on the bench. So really cool meta call, I think, in Regidrago. I think this was part of like the Grant Manley, Caleb Gedimer, Antonucci, Azul, which I think they all made day 2 with this Regidrago list. And I know that at least Ryan Antonucci and Grant Manley were up at the top ranks for a long time in the tournament.
Yeah, so second sort of option here at the top of the charts. You had Miraidon, you had a bunch of Regidrago, but then squeezing into the middle there, you got Victor de Velasco, who is running what I predicted. I was like, there will be a Goldango deck at the top tables, and Victor, thank you for keeping me, making me right to
I
know.
mean, this is now Sean's podcast for anyone who's wondering. Sean's now the new head of honcho here for
I
getting
mean,
that one right. But Goldango, a very interesting deck, right? I mean, we talked about, I think even briefly when you had mentioned, like, I really think Goldango, man, there's something there. We talked about some of the different buffs that Goldango gets in the Surging Sparks format, and we're curious to see how that would actually be impacted. But I think a lot of the top Goldengos that we saw in this tournament, right, were all running the same A spec, Sean. And what is that A spec?
it's Energy Search Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Energy Search Pro is an ace spec. If you don't remember it, you play it, and then you can search your deck for an energy of each type that you have available in your deck. So you basically, in theory, you can get what is the max 8 energy out
Yes,
of
I
your
believe,
deck.
because fairy energy is
Yes.
not illegal in
Yes.
format anymore. But to clarify, it's also basic
Yeah,
energy.
basic
It has to
energy.
be
Yes.
basic energy. You can't do special.
But like the nice thing about that is, you can go grab up to 8 energy out of your deck. And that loads you up perfectly for whatever attack you might want to do. So long as you don't find it very late in the game. Like in theory, you want to find this early, which you can easily do with the combination of cards like Irida or Cypher Maniac's code breaking, just stacking. And I saw that in the matchup, just stacking the top of your deck right before you use Goldengo's ability to draw cards. And you do that early in the game, you get all that energy into your hand. And then later in the game, you just go stack your deck with superior energy retrievals. And like at that point, like the consistency now that this offers, because I think that was one of the hardest parts for this deck, is the consistency of getting enough energy out of the deck early to
Mm-hmm.
use those superior energy retrievals late. And now with Energy Search Pro, so long as it's not prized, you're kind of on easy street in that respect.
You also, if you haven't been able to find your Goldengos, right, to use that Goldengo ability, there's also a Pokestop in there to
Yeah.
synergize well with Cypher Maniac's code breaking. So, like you were saying, just a testament of the consistency to this deck now and how it's kind of evolved and grown. Also had a new edition of Surging Spark, Sean, one of our favorite cards from the set review. What's included in this deck that we're showing? This is Jared Grimes' deck. Our friend
Yes.
Jared, he got 86th in the tournament with Goldango. So this isn't exactly Victor's list, but this is a pretty good list if you're looking to snag, a Goldango one. Jared, a good friend of the podcast. But again, Sean, what was that Surging Sparks card?
Yeah, I had guesses. I was like, you're playing all this energy. Somebody's gonna make maybe a counter box or find like a Pokemon or two. And I was wrong. You don't need a counter box if you're taking extra prizes with Togekiss. Togekiss has the ability. I don't know, Wonder Kiss, I think is what
Wonder
it is.
Kiss, yeah.
Yeah. What Wonder Kiss does is whenever one of your opponents, is it the active Pokemon or whenever a Pokemon is knocked out?
Whenever the opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out.
So whenever the opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out, in any circumstance. So in theory, Dusk Noir shenanigans you can take it. But for the most part, it's there because Goldango is trying to blow things up pretty quickly. And you get to flip a coin. If that coin flip is heads, you just take an extra prize. I mean, that's kind of incredible. And in a Goldango list where like you'll have a few bench sitters, right? You're gonna have probably your Radiant Greninja, you might have your Pheasantipity, and then you'll have a couple of like Gimme Goal and Goldengos. You have a bench spot or two available to you. You only need one Goldango and one Gimme Ghoul / Goldango out at a time. You only need, a backup. And that extra bench space is put to really good use here to like create weird checkmate situations for your opponent where like if you flip heads once in a game even, all of a sudden you go from taking 2 to 3 prizes, or your opponent's 1 prize stall turns into a 2 prize gain for you. And yeah, just absolutely broken deck. I love this.
I remember in one of the stream matches, I don't know if it was Victor, but a Goldango was playing against a Charizard EX. And in that matchup specifically, the Charizard EX, had multiple like little babies on the field, right? Their setup turn in their second turn of the game, put up a little one prizer in the active, and would still have a pretty easy trade with the gold dingo. They're like, yeah, I don't mind you taking this knockout right here. But hitting heads, just having an absolutely broken start of getting the Goldango online, the Energy Surge Pro, getting the Togekiss online, was able to flip heads on a Wonder Kiss on their Charmander knockout. So just for one energy or two energy, I think it's two energy because it's 50
Yeah.
times. For two energy, which is so easy when you have Energy Search Pro, was able to get two prizes. So really just threw the trade in their favor entirely and really accentuated of why Togekiss is so good. Because yeah, sometimes it's going to hit tails. 50% of the time you're going to hit tails and you're not going to get an extra prize. But when you do hit it, that's another resource in your hand from your prizes to be able to accelerate your game plan right and continue. It's such a cool deck. I mean, I'm on the board of Goldango now. I think it does look like a lot of fun to play.
Oh yeah, and like again, it's like Miraidon, like these Miraidon being the top two, and then Goldango is this deck that is just you're just drawing so many cards every turn, and it's a weird one where I'm like, I think the pendulum, Jake, has swung too far the other direction in terms of all of the abilities that are on the field that without a path to the peak or a power plant, something like that, without something like that, like it does feel like what's the point of Iono or Roxanne anymore?
Yeah.
Because like, there was turns where it's like, yeah, whatever player got Iono'd, and that player drew like 7 more cards at the start of their turn. And you're just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? What is the
Yeah.
point of this card?
Yeah, I think Pablo Mesa had a really good thought and conversation as they were trying to, like buy time,
Yeah.
between matches and stuff like that. Kind of talked about how he hated Iono when it first came out. Iono, Marnie, those kinds of cards, and was like, this is terrible. But as time has gone on, kind of as you're saying, there's Radiant Greninja in the deck. There's Pheasantipity in pretty much every single deck. And that doesn't even include the different abilities like on
Goldango, yeah.
Goldango specifically, that just kind of nullify Iono in a sense. Just says, okay, now I get to see the rest of my deck, right? I don't
Right.
see the bottom cards, but I'll see the rest of it. So really curious to see how this goes on. In the list that we're showing on screen for all the YouTube people, Jared played Monkey Dory as well, a one-of copy. He did say in the replies that Monkey Dory was basically useless, so he would not do it. But I understand the concept, right? Because Goldango being 260 HP is kind of difficult. It's like an odd number for a lot of different decks. So I see the thought there, but
Yeah.
did not pan out for him. But
But yeah,
he said probably Manaphy would be better.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, in certain situations, Manaphy, because gimme goals are so tiny, I could imagine Manaphy, maybe against Reggie Drago, if they get set up quickly and then they Kirim you're just out of the game. You just don't, like I don't have anything after that. So maybe I could see that. But yeah, Goldingo, really, really cool deck there. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Just a cool deck, but
It was the people's choice of the tournament. It wasn't the best deck of the tournament. I think that crown maybe goes to Reggie Drago. You could probably argue Miraidon having a mirror match in finals, but I think the King Award goes to Reggie Drago just being so dominant yet again. Maybe not a surprise to a lot of people, but cool to see an immersion or emergence, I'm sorry, of these two different decks within this meta. No Dialga.
no. So Jake, I do want to take a break here. Without looking out deck lists, just to close everything out and be like, your thoughts on why we haven't seen any new archetypes do particularly well. It's early in Surging Sparks, but even back to Stellar Crown, right? In Stellar Crown, the only new archetype we got that had success, and that success I would argue has been mixed, limited maybe, is Terapagos.
Hmm.
And it seems like that deck is completely just off a cliff for Sacramento, at least. What do you think is going on? Like, why are new archetypes struggling so much in these two new sets?
So I think the reason and why we haven't seen like too much change in a sense, with Reggie Drago's dominance is, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, is just Reggie Drago is so flexible,
Mm,
right? I mean, now they've included a Lowland Executor EX in their deck, another different option to be able to utilize another set of attacks for specific scenarios that they may face. And so you kind of have these sort of slower setup decks, right? Can't really compete with Reggie Drago or struggle against competing with Reggie Drago. So that's why you see the emergence of these fast decks, right?
yeah.
Maridon, very fast deck, as you were talking about. Goldango, very fast deck, as we discussed. And so I think that's kind of been the key piece in these decks is like, in order to compete with Reggie Drago, you have to be faster than Reggie Drago, right? Charizard's kind of fallen a little bit, like Gardevoir didn't really show up in this tournament, was played a little bit, but wasn't shown up alongside Charizard. So I think that's kind of the key piece is like, it's just difficult because you need to stay ahead of Reggie Drago. You need to overwhelm Reggie Drago. And I don't think a lot of these new decks are doing that. Or I think
Mm,
that's why we're seeing, Reggie Drago take the top tables. And a big reason why Maridon and Goldango were able to do this. Because, you even talked about the prize trade, right? With Goldango and Wonder Kiss, right? Like in the Charizard matchup specifically,
yeah.
was only able to really jump ahead in that prize trade in the scenario of the stream game that I watched because it flipped heads on a coin flip on a one prizer. And you could do that same thing with Reggie Drago because in the Reggie Drago decks, right, them playing the Clefas I
Hmm.
talked about earlier. So it's kind of that same concept as well. So that's the biggest thing that I would say. I'm not the most knowledgeable person of the format,
No, it was.
I would say, but from my perspective looking in, that's kind of what it feels like in a sense.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like going into this and to that point about like speed, right? Because I think you're right. Reggie Drago is the sort of fulcrum of the format right now. It's like everything kind of like warps around it. And to your point, like
Hmm.
it has so many options, and it doesn't attack it doesn't attack on the first turn. That's the one thing it doesn't do. So to your point about like, well, if you're going to have everything you need by turn 2, I need to have everything I need by turn 1 if I'm going to compete. And so you see the big basic decks. You see Raging Bolt, you see Maridon. Goldenga is an interesting one because I'm like, I like it, but like, it's not faster than Reggie Drago. But
I
with the
think it,
Togekiss, it is at
yeah, I
least,
think with Togekiss, it makes it like a fast potential, right?
yeah,
Because you hit heads on a Reggie Drago,
twice.
you just need to hit one more heads. Yeah.
Right.
And that's it, which is difficult, but you just need to hit one more heads.
I mean, if Pokemon Pocket has taught me anything, Jake, is it's that you can easily hit two heads as easily as you can hit two tails. So, like, sure,
Exactly.
go for it. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think about some of the other archetypes that they tried to introduce, particularly in Surging Sparks, and you have things like Hydreigon that we talked about. We both think like the card itself is good. Like 200 mil 3 is a really good attack. 130 to the active and 2 to the bench, like doing 130 to 2 of the bench Pokemon, that's crazy strong. That's 390 damage you're putting on the board with one attack. That's
Especially when not even Goldengos are playing Manaphy right now.
right. So it's like, you think to yourself, like, okay, well, if nobody's playing Manaphy, that should be good. But both of those decks suffer from being, you have a stage 2 deck in one of them. It's slow, like Flygon also does a ton of damage to the bench, but again, it's a stage 2. It's kind of slow. Um, I think the deck I shouldn't be surprised because I guess I'm still surprised nobody has tried to crack Sylveon, because I do think Sylveon is interesting in that if you build it right, you can theoretically shuffle all of your opponent's useful Pokemon back into their deck. And then cards like Fezandipity do nothing for them because you're not taking a prize when you do that. So, but you know, that's me just maybe hoping. It's still pretty slow, right? It's a stage 1 that has a weird energy cost. So you're playing a stage 1 and then you have to play like something like Crispin to even do the attack, which means you're playing pretty slow.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's a tough one. I think that I'll be interested to see, you know, if the next couple of sets introduce anything to slow the game down, because it's Reggie Drago versus big basic going second decks. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the format that we live in. At least Reggie Drago, not a basic like Mewtwo and Mew EX, right?
Yeah.
At least we don't have Welder in format.
It's true. It's true. It's
to
been
be
worse.
able to do that. But also Reggie Drago, though, I make that joke, but like Reggie Drago doesn't have to copy the energy requirement. I'm pretty sure Mewtwo and Mew GX had to copy the energy per like if the attack on the Pokemon it was copying needed 5 fire energy,
Yes.
Mewtwo and Mew GX needed 5 fire energy. So at least, you know, Reggie Drago has to evolve, but it does have its pros, you know, being able to copy and do whatever.
Yeah. It does have its limitations, but it's a weird one, man. I think that, you know, and the tough thing is if Miraidon and some of these other decks see more play because Reggie Drago is so good, I don't think that opens up space for the decks that I was talking about to then do well, because the format is then so fast that you're like, you're going to draw 50 cards on your first turn. Like, how do I compete against that? And now there's no more Path to the Peak, which, don't get me wrong, I think Path to the Peak can be wildly annoying at times. Like, I get why. I'm happy that it's not in the format because I think it allows some decks to do really well. But boy, howdy, there's like no stopgap. There's no like way to hold any other deck a little bit at bay in the current format, unless you just want to play Iron Thorns, which at that point, like, no, please don't.
Yeah, I mean, they have Iron Thorns. They have the what's the mischievous ancient Pokemon's name? I forget.
I don't know.
The one that stops abilities. I can't remember, but that little psychic Pokemon.
Yeah, the little psychic one. It's like Klefki, but different.
Stop. Yeah, and then Klefki as well.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple different Pokemon that have this like stopping abilities effect. So that's why I would be very curious if they included something like a Path to the Peak in the near future, because it's like we already have a couple options of that. Is this too much?
Yeah.
Right. So could be interesting. But Sean, do you have anything else that you need to add for this week's episode?
No, it's cool watching some of Sacramento Regionals, and it'll be cool seeing what people get up to, how people respond, if it's going to be just kind of the same thing until we hit Prismatic Evolutions.
The meta will constantly evolve, and the Metapod will evolve alongside it. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Jake, and that's Sean. We'll see you all next week. Happy Thanksgiving again if you're celebrating Thanksgiving, and if not, have a happy Thursday.